Guys, we're starting the recording, okay?
Okay.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Great, let's call the meeting to order. Welcome everybody to February Parks Board. Rachel, would you like to do roll call, please?
Rick Worthout,
I'm here.
Karen Stroud,
Here.
Sarah McLean, here, Jen Mulder,
Here.
Scott Reese,
Here.
Mike Swam, here, Jerry Melky, here.
Great, everybody's here and we have a quorum. Moving on to the minutes. Did anybody have any questions or comments on the minutes? Okay, is there a motion to approve?
I motion that we approve. Okay.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, Rachel, board communications this month?
None.
It could be a quick meeting. Do we have any public comments? First, we'll start with the room.
By public.
Is everybody met Jordan? Yeah. Let's see, anybody on Zoom with public comments at this time? Raise your hand if so. To be on items not on the agenda.
Don't see anyone.
All right, great. Let's move on to discussion items. So the first thing we're going to talk about today is we put our heads together after some really good input from other board members on what we can do to make the agenda more effective and how we can be more productive and effective this year at our meetings. So we're just going to spend a few minutes talking about like these changes. You've probably noticed a few of them already. So starting with the agenda in the packet, there's going to be a little background memo now on everything that we're going to discuss. A little history of what's gone on so far, and then hopefully that'll help you be a little more prepared for meetings, and then also let the public know a little bit more about what it is we're talking about. Let's see, we are going to try and think of every possible attachment that could help people know what they want to know about the meeting. So it was kind of large this week, but it won't be this big every week, I'm sure. Let's see, we're going to go back to having old business and new business. We decided it's just useful, like things come up all the time in this group, you know, somebody has, you know, a great idea, but maybe it wasn't on the agenda. So then we can slot it into new business. If there's time, we can talk about it, or we can move it to the next meeting. How are we going to make changes to the meetings? I'm going to try harder to stick to the agenda. And everybody's going to help me if we do get off track. Let's see. And then how are we going to focus on important projects? So we're going to start doing some of this today. We're going to establish priorities. So we are going to discuss CIP projects in late fall when they have to go into council, park CIP projects. And then the beginning every year, we're going to talk about our project implementation matrix. And we went through the ranking effort, and now they're ranked. And then, as we saw, there's a whole bunch of #1 high priority projects. So we may go further than to limit the number of active projects so that we're not getting spread thin, and that we're prioritizing the important ones. And we might move some to the back burner. Let's see, we're also going to early in the year try and lay out a plan for the year. Have Rachel will go over that. Then the scores, the priority scores will help us determine what order we do things in, and of course, there'll always be changes. Due diligence and big projects, we're going to try and always make sure we explored alternatives and pros and cons. And then how do we make time to discuss important projects with our limited amount of time at the meetings? So one idea is we just limit the number of things we discuss. We've had some rather lengthy agendas, so hopefully you'll be seeing that. We've talked of dedicating a meeting to the topic. This one is very much about the surveys. So that's an example of that. Some boards and commissions hold special work sessions that would be outside of our normal once a month meeting. So we can talk about that. We would vote on it. And then Rachel's going to talk more about forming a committee and what's involved with that. It's a little bit more than we thought, but not much. And then finally, I think it's a good idea if we all kind of cross-check how our projects are lining up with the Parks Master Plan, and I guess the City Master Plan in general as well. Good. Let's see then. Rachel, does anybody have any questions?
Does anyone have questions about
Yeah,
the calendar for the year, suggestions?
yeah.
Feel free if you think of things to add to the calendar
I
or.
just thought of one more thing too, Rachel. We had discussed maybe trying to get the agenda out earlier. And so we did this month. It was a week early, and then sure enough, it came back and bit us because the opportunity came up to have John Angeli, who is the city planner, come and talk to us about surveys. But the agenda was already out, so we decided to he's gonna go to the survey committee and talk about that. So that's the problem with getting out too far ahead. Rachel and I have decided that we will determine the agenda though a week ahead of time. We just won't publish it until the Friday before. So if anybody wants to get it a week ahead, you can call
That's
Rachel
fine.
then.
Yeah, once it's published on the website and it's posted around town, I can't take it down to amend an agenda. At that point, it has to be amended within the meeting. So that's where it kind of gets us in a hold, where if we're waiting on things that last week, it's best to send out.
It's kind of not fair to the public really too. Like
Right.
if there was something added that they didn't see on the agenda, then that could be unfortunate. Sound good?
Good.
Okay, Rachel has a bylaws update.
Yeah, so the Parks and Recreation Board needs to update their bylaws. Staff has caught a few errors that need our attention. So in section 7 of our bylaws, you'll see highlighted here, the meeting agendas shall be mailed. Obviously, we do not mail them. So we are going to change that to email as long as I get board approval tonight. The second amendment would be the members of the Parks and Recreation Board consists of 5 members. There are 7 of you. So we need to change that, and then where it says voting and quorum within our bylaws. So staff recommendation is the Parks and Recreation Board makes a motion to approve the following bylaw changes. The agenda shall be emailed. The Parks and Recreation Board consists of 7 members, 4 make a quorum, and 4 are needed to vote. So I just need.
I make a motion to update our bylaws to say the agenda should be emailed and the Parks and Rec Board should consist of 7 members. 4 to make a quorum and 4 are needed to vote.
I'll second that.
Perfect.
All right,
Thank you.
Rachel.
So with committees, so at the last meeting, we decided on a survey.
Do you need to vote on that?
No, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? No, you don't need to do a roll call or anything.
Right.
And then for the committee, we have to go back for the survey committee and make a motion and vote for all the members on the survey committee. It's also been caught in our bylaws and other board bylaws that the chair is by default on every committee. It would make sense if Deanna chooses not to be on a committee, she can do so. But that has to be in formal minutes that she chooses to do that. So it's on record as to why the chair is not on a certain committee. And then I know we've talked about a program committee. So if we want to do that this evening, we can choose members and vote on that as well and kind of knock them.
It would be programs or recreation programs.
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
Yep, kind of getting that ball rolling. So, so the recommendation would be we make a motion for the survey committee. If you'd like to stay Sarah McLean, Maggie Foss, and Karen Stroud, or we can change it up, whatever you all deem.
That just brings up a question. Are you guys gonna wanna be on the program committee too? It would be nice to spread things around a little.
I'd be open to being on the program committee.
Which would you rather be on?
Programming.
Okay, maybe,
I would rather be on the program committee also.
okay.
What's the other committee?
The survey.
I would be on the survey committee.
I'll stay on the survey committee.
And then I'll join the survey committee. And how about, let's see, does anybody else want to be on program? I don't feel I have to be in it. Jamie? Yeah,
So I'll make a motion to approve the following committees. Survey committee will consist of Dana, Karen, and Scott. Okay, Scott, and program committee, myself, Maggie, and Jamie.
You second that?
All those in favor?
I,
Aye. Opposed? Great.
Perfect. Moving right along.
Okay.
Okay, let's see, priorities. So Rachel has kindly tabulated our results from our discussions about the, matrix. And then I took that just one step further. Do you have the new one, Rachel? It's a little easier to read.
I do somewhere.
And what this document consists of is, everything off our CIP projects. And then also everything off the project matrix that scored a 1. So I think if we start out with our high priority stuff for this year, you guys can add things. Does that sound good?
Yes.
Okay.
Here we go. This one. Wait a second. There you go.
Great.
Hmm?
So as we discussed, we have a whole lot of number ones and we want to do things well. Are there things we need to move to the back burner? I made a couple suggestions on here. Why don't we go down the list then? And Rachel, some of these have either been done or are in process. Do you want to go through those?
Yeah, so DPW, when we had that strange, nice weather, like today, they removed the brush at Harborview. So that's been completed. They also took down
And a bunch of.
some pine trees as well. So that's been cleared. They are going to dig out the sand at Cozaquat as well and put the wood chips in as soon as they can. So that's probably going to happen in the next couple of weeks.
So that could be on this list too.
that's good.
And then they're also going to put some of the beach equipment at Costa.
Yeah, I was still working on that with Lucas.
But maybe change out this slide anyways. Okay, the beach playground is on order. John Cups is on top of putting in the wall. He's got that scheduled for this spring. Anything else on that?
So the installation date as of right now for the beach playground would be April 22nd. And then Cups plans on getting down there the end of March, early April before the installation comes in. So they'll put the equipment, sounds like they'll put the equipment in and then the turf will go in right after.
It'll be snowing then.
That'll be winter.
That'll get up.
We'll talk more about the survey later, but that's obviously a big priority for us this year. That could be a really nice influx of funds from our neighboring townships. Rachel has done a bunch of work on recycling at the parks, and she'll talk about that later. So that's well underway. Updating the website, starting up Instagram. Thank you to Sophia. I've seen your posts.
What is the name of the Instagram?
Palm
site?
Springs Parks and Rec.
Good idea.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, and then, just when we have events, you could post stuff, or if you
Yeah,
wanna
no.
post some fun facts about the parks, or.
Is there an order you'd want me to adhere to for the parks or some sort of like place I could get these fun facts, or do you just want me to, I mean, I can.
We just look at the project that the intern did, a few summers ago, right? That's got information on all the parks. There's a link on the website.
Or past, Parks Corner.
Parks Corner, old
Okay.
Parks Corners, those are online now.
Sophia, I can send you some stuff in an email.
Yeah.
Right.
where you can pull
I'll leave
from.
it.
And then, we could tie it in with our little, monthly column in the Harbor Light, like, be sure and check out the Parks Corner. We're talking about some fun upcoming stuff or whatever.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
So just events, fun facts, point out the parks corners. You
Yeah, you can
update
just
people
go
on,
through
like,
the
progress
parks,
too.
yeah. And then, didn't we say we were also maybe gonna try and just do some little quick surveys, like, Jamie, you were talking about this, like, yes or no, I would like to see shuffleboard at Marina Park, or I don't know, just, that's not a good example.
Like
maybe
a
just-
story Yeah, you could do a story.
Yeah.
Yeah, just making
Yeah.
sure,
I
I'm like,
feel
can
like-
you pull posts?
I
Yes.
feel like that's something down the road, cause right now there's 12 followers or something like,
Yeah.
there's not a lot of followers, so I
Gotta
think getting
start
the
somewhere.
word out
Like,
there.
so everybody needs to share it to their personal.
Yeah.
accounts.
Okay, and that's the best way to get followers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Where is it being promoted right now? Is it on the website? Did it mention that website?
24.
Oh,
Whoa.
double.
It's been increasing, actually. I told my friends I started it. Quite a few high schoolers.
Get the high schoolers.
Get the high schoolers.
But how else are they learning about it? I'm just curious. Would your word of mouth is only way.
Share it on. I think our plan was to, when we did Facebook, we shared it in the Harbor Light, we did the chamber newsletter, we did the city website. I think those were the three main.
Is this linked to your Facebook one or is it separate?
It was a mess, let me tell you about it.
I know, it would be.
No, but I
Since
thought
you
when you post on Facebook, it goes on Instagram.
Apparently not, because when I tried to
What?
post on Instagram, I
Depends.
wanted it
Yeah.
on Facebook.
It
There's,
doesn't?
and it just, it wasn't.
You
doing
have
it.
to
There was some
start
things.
to work out. So when I went into Instagram, because I don't ever use my Instagram and I hadn't signed into it in so long, it forced me to basically create a new Instagram based off my Facebook page. So I lost my old Instagram and now it's just lost to the world and I can't get back into it. I've tried to reset the password, like it's a mess. So when Sophia
So
came in,
you don't-
hooked it up so I can get into it. And I can post and I can do all that, but it's not quite linked to the city,
Wow.
our Parks and Rec one.
But you could say on one of your city Facebook posts.
Yeah.
We have a new Instagram
Yeah.
account, go follow us
Yeah.
here.
Yep, I can link it that way. It's just not, I wish it
Guys,
was.
I have an idea. Why don't we move this topic to new business? We can talk about it later if we have time, or we can
Okay.
dedicate an agenda item to it next month.
Sounds good.
Good.
All right. We're gonna continue on with lawn rehab that we re-upped that again this year and it's looking so much better. Let's see. Rachel, at some point is gonna work on annual reviews for ADA compliance, safety, maintenance, environmental practices. And we could talk about that as an agenda item at a meeting later. Fundings, grants, and donors, that's an agenda item in and of itself, and a lot of that will come up as we have projects that need funding. I think I have this whole idea about matching donors to projects, so let's put that as an agenda item. New programs, okay, so that's next month. So the program committee might want to get together and come up with some ideas, to kind of get us kicked off. That sound good?
Yes.
Okay. Continuing with geese control, Rachel, anything on that? Firming up the parks wish list. And then I think I said I was gonna do a spreadsheet that will put together all the information we did from our parks surveys last year. And then just our ongoing events, and maybe that can be part of what programs does too. Are there any others we want to do? Are there any changes we want to make? Anything? Looks good. The next, does everybody agree? Anything else that you'd like to add or comments?
So the events we've been running will come under programs initially and then.
If that makes
Later
sense to
schedule.
everybody, I think that could
Yeah,
make
it
sense.
does. Yeah.
Okay. Then the next column is our CIP projects. So the skate park landscaping, all of that will happen this year. I think we've got funds for everything. Is that right, Rachel?
Waiting a few answers, but yep,
Mhm.
looks time plan.
We'll be installing a fence down at Lower Zorn, that rope fence is right now. Anything on that? I think John Cups was gonna be working with you on that.
Yeah, I think I have that in my directors.
Okay, good. We're discussing on some of these bigger parks that maybe it makes good sense to have a phasing plan for them. Like where it was a big fight to chew off on Kiwanis for everything all in one grant request. So let's put that as an agenda item, maybe for April. Does that sound good? And we can talk about those things, maybe we'll have more input from the surveys as well by then. How we might want to go about this. And then we also have that grant we should talk about too, right? Or we did
Yeah,
talk about it. Okay.
We'll wait, yeah.
Yep. Harborview Park, phase one, taking down the brush is done, but again, we can talk about that later in the year. And the Coastal Playground. Then we have our two fundraising only projects. So far, they're fundraising only, and that's the eastern section of the boardwalk and the Harborway Bike Path. Any updates from council on what they'd like to do about the boardwalk? We're just gonna
No, but
leave it.
I'm gonna, when we do the parks presentation in March to council, I'm gonna end it with a little update on the Harbor Way. And kind of get all the newer council members who may not be aware of the project or kind of where it's at. And also discuss the boardwalk for kind of a direction they would like to go.
Money have we raised so far?
The boardwalk, I'd have to look. I have a couple, well, I mean, we have people willing, and we got a $25,000 matching
Right.
donation that was kind of on the table. There are a couple other pledges, pledge forms out there, but in hand, probably if I had to guess, $4,000. Harbor Way is about $5,000. So same for both projects.
Okay.
But there are people waiting for the boardwalk who are willing to give larger donations.
All right, maybe those could be talked about when we talk about funding grants and matching donors to projects. Then these were some ideas that I had to put on the back burner. The back burner could mean just even later this year. Just something that we don't have to have swirling around right at the moment. Standardizing signage, the community garden isn't on the CIP list. I think, is it 2027, Rachel? Something
Yeah,
like
it's way
that.
out there.
Indian Town Park, so at some point we'll be getting closer to having that project done and I'll be more ready to talk about it. Shea Park with the locomotive, Ford Park, they're looking at some updates there. Tourist Park and the stadium concerts. Any thoughts on those things? Anything else?
Would the redo, potential short-term redo at Ford Park involve us in some kind of way? Do we have to move that up a little bit? And in terms of priority?
Rachel and I met with, they have a committee for, the Harbor Commission to work on updates to Ford Park and, you know, the big project is gonna be much down the road, but, just some things to make it operate better in the meantime. Basically, it's adding another lane to the access road to the launch,
Kind
so.
of moving it and creating more green space by the water, potentially by doing that.
I think all they wanted to do was widen it. Based on that drawing that Dick gave me, or I mean, Bill.
See what goes. I don't know, if it might involve more time or not.
Okay, do we have a consensus that this is a good plan going forward?
So are
Yeah.
these items then being moved on to the calendar? As far as if there's discussion things or anything like that?
Yeah,
Okay.
we can.
Okay, terrific. Let's see, so now let's talk about the grants. The Community Foundation has 2 grant cycles every year, so this is the spring one, there's another one in the fall.
So they're taking requests. We have to have our plan in by February 23rd. This means calling the foundation, telling them what we're interested in, seeing what the best fit is with them. And then the applications are due March 1st. The projects range from $1,000 to $15,000, obviously just because you apply for 15,000. The nice thing about these grants is they'll counter offer and say, not 15, but 8. You know, so that's kind of nice. They're pretty competitive in that way, and they like to fund most of the applicants that apply. So the 2 that we had previously talked about, one was Kiwanis Park Trail and disc golf work, trail signage, tee pads on the back 9, disc golf map signage. The second one was recycling recycling receptacles, for our parks, and I ballparked it about 8 of them, you know, and then I just put other suggestions or ideas individuals had. I didn't want anyone to think that we were stuck on just these 2.
Any ideas?
Are you saying we're going to move forward with the top 2? Or are you?
No, I mean,
pick
I
one?
can take 3 of them and see what they recommend. Petoskey got their recycling program started through one of these grants. That's how they got their recycling receptacles, and that's kind of why I added it to the list, because they're definitely not cheap to purchase to put in the parks. And then the trail signage, and I also don't want anyone to think that just because we do one or the other doesn't mean the other one won't happen. The trail signage at Kiwanis, the T-pads, can still likely happen if we decided to go with recycling for the grant or.
Those could be something on a wish list as well.
Correct, yeah.
Um,
You said by March 1, you have to get the application in?
Correct.
Like this March 24.
Mhm. They're quick, they're nice, it's a very nice process that they have set up there.
Have you already had a chance to meet with Sarah?
So I'm meeting with Sarah this week, but I wanted to make sure that I wasn't going ahead, putting the cart before the horse for our meeting. If someone had another project they wanted me to take to them. But I plan on meeting with her tomorrow or what's today, Tuesday, tomorrow, Thursday.
Rachel, do you need help putting these together? Is this something you already have all of the information for?
I have all the information for it. Yeah, these are fairly, like, it's an online portal and you kind of plug the information in.
And just looking at our projects, and I'm not sure we're far enough along on any of these to do anything else.
Yeah.
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, I think
These
those
are
are
the
good.
most applicable to the community foundation.
I agree.
Unless you can think of anything that would need a grant to get a program started, but maybe we're not there yet.
We're not.
Yeah,
there
we're
yet.
not.
Maybe in the fall.
Yeah, they have another cycle, so.
Do we want then Rachel to go ahead with those 2?
I'll make a motion to move forward with the Kiwanis Park Trail and disc golf work and recycling receptacles for the Petoskey Harbor Springs Area Community Foundation evaluation.
I second that.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
So I will speak to them and kind of feel out which is the best fit and
We
apply for
can't,
whichever
can we
one.
do 2?
Can do 2, but they'd be working against each other. I'd rather apply for one. But I'll talk to them and see what she
Another
said.
opportunity in the fall as well.
Yeah.
Wow, this is great. We're moving right along here. Okay, survey committee update.
Right. So last meeting we discussed talking about how can we find ways to bring more funding to our park system, especially if we're looking at increasing programming. Our parks are not what they used to be. There offers a lot more to the public than we have in the past. So in the past, we had an agreement, we still have an agreement with West Traverse Township and Little Traverse Township that they would support the cost sharing of a couple of our parks. So as a result of that discussion, we were looking at what do these townships need for us to be able to, ask for more funding coming towards the parks. The 3 parks that these townships contribute to are Zorn Park, Kiwanis, and Skate Park. And obviously Skate Park's had a huge update. Zorn Park is very popular for lots of events. But also we noticed that there's probably a lot of community members from Little Traverse and West Traverse who are using multiple parks, not just these 3. So we came up with the goals of trying, how do we get this information to the townships? So first off, figuring out where people are living and who is accessing our parks. An idea about how do we communicate with people who are interested in using the parks and park services. We want to gather some data and then also determine where are we going to put our funds and efforts towards, as we move forward. So first off, we thought, as we were talking as a subcommittee, it was Karen, Maggie, myself, and then Rachel. We thought it was something important was that it was easy to complete. It was something that was on the quicker side. We thought it was important to have it in electronic format versus trying to take QR codes at other parks and use lawn signs and all that kind of thing. We thought electronic would be quicker for us to get the information, and easier for people to complete. And we're also hopeful that with the survey, we would be surveying people, but we'd also be sharing some information as part of the survey. So for example, Kiwanis Park, having some information like, oh, disc golf. Maybe people don't know that that belongs there, or don't realize that some of these areas do fall under the parks programs. So we were hopeful that within the survey, there would be some maps and some just little programming information that would spark people's curiosity while gathering information at the same time. So we came up with some short questions to start, that we would bring back to us for discussion and then decide how we want to move forward. So first question we talked about is, what's your residency? Whether it's full-time, whether they're seasonal, part-time, where do they vote? So knowing what township, or city member where they're a part of. We have a list of all the parks, also included in that with the map, and also some activities to do in the parks. Check all the boxes of the parks you've visited in the past 12 months. And then also in the last 12 months, how often have you participated in any of the programming that we have? So just gathering an idea, and also trying to bring to people's attention that these are part of the Harbor Springs Parks and Recreation Department. So which parks which programs did you participate in? If you did participate, how would you prefer to receive updates? What other activities would you like our Parks and Rec to offer? That would be an open-ended question. And then an additional open-ended question for and what people would suggest for improving what we already have established. So brief questions to try and get to the point. We thought we would distribute this through social media, through school newsletters, the Harbor Springs Chamber, just kind of thinking about our partnerships within the community, city newsletters. It could be part of the Parks Corner, having QR codes places, so it's something that people could use their phones and quickly do. And originally our thought was to do this in May and June, to kind of get that information out there, and then later see if we did not have enough of a response, do we then move forward to continue with July by using things such as mailers or other ways to communicate. So that's just kind of a short summary. Karen and Maggie, what did I miss?
I think that sounds great. I think one of the big things we wanted to communicate is this is kind of, like Sarah said, phase one. We're gonna start, our thought was to start electronically, see how many responses we get. And then if we have to check again in the summer, we can, but also we're gonna get more local residents in May and June, where if you're surveying in July and August, it may be a lot of out-of-towners.
One thing we did spend some time talking about, and I think it's worthy of discussion even now, is how far out do we want to go besides Little Traverse and West Traverse? Because our schools serve 7, Harbor Springs being one of the 7, like Redmond and Friendship and Pleasant View especially is a very big population of families now because of all the, building around the Highlands. So how far out did we want to go? Because it's more than just Little Traverse and West Traverse that are using our parks. And so it seems not right to exclude them and perhaps even look at maybe some funds, some sharing of funds that way.
I think we should, yeah.
And we included, when we're talking about where do you vote, we included City of Harbor Springs, Cross Village, Friendship Township, Little Traverse Township, Pleasant View Township, Redmond Township, West Traverse Township, and then a section for other. So we do include as part of what we drafted up. But
Is that
then
all
also
on
to
here?
bring back the
Yeah, all the
districts
ones that are
that.
in the district.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Especially if
We
it's
can
being
distribute
submitted in
these.
school newsletters.
Yeah,
The schools serve all 7 of those. If there's some way we can connect with the schools to get them out. Because the kids, who are using the parks, those families living out there. Because I don't think it's fair just to attach Little Traverse and West Traverse anymore, because there's been so much growth outside those
I
communities.
guess I've mentioned this before. I just would hate to have, our survey kind of biased towards families with kids. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's important that kids use parks, but then there's everybody else that also uses parks. And if one of our main mechanisms is the
Right.
school newsletter, that would
Yeah.
tend to bring more responses. So we maybe need to think of some other ways to get to the rest of the.
Yeah, I agree.
People
That's
like
why
our
we were
age,
talking
yeah.
about the chamber and all that, we were just kind of hesitant to start out with a mailer first.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
Funding.
if it's posted to multiple social media accounts, if we can get it in the news, the QR code in the newspaper, something like that.
A mailer is staff recommendation would be a last resort. That would be very expensive to do.
Could you also like maybe print out some hard copies and take it to some of the places like the Friendship Center where a lot of
Yeah.
older people go and can answer it and they might not do the electronic, but
Even the township offices, probably, we could post
Yeah.
on or have
I
hard.
think if you hand delivered it to the
Mhm.
township managers or whatever they're called, that could be good.
and maybe include like when you do any class, like if you would prefer to take it on, like you can pick it up at these places.
Yeah, that's smart.
We talked about whether or not the townships would be willing to do any kind of email. And I know Victor talked to JB. You talked to JB?
Yeah. we
And then
both
also
did.
Bob over at Little Traverse.
Yeah,
And they don't really have a mechanism for doing a lot of that, unfortunately. So that didn't make it very easy to try to get it out to the township residents.
Rachel, would you like to give a little update on what your conversation with JB or how that went?
yeah, so I spoke to Jim Bartlett. He is the supervisor of West Traverse Township. We haven't met him, also chair of our harbor commission. And I asked if he remembered how it was done way back then when he was a lifeguard at the beach, probably, working.
The harbor master.
Yeah, exactly. And he said it was fairly simple. People were in the park and they asked their questions. It was very like, where do you vote? And that was it. And then it was a tally, kind of like what we've seen in the past paperwork. His only comment would be, when we ask, are you a full-time resident, a seasonal, or a visitor? He said they may be a visitor, but they could be a visitor in West Traverse in a short-term rental or Little Traverse. He's like, you may miss where they're actually, coming from, like a visitor. They should still be cost sharing into that.
Yeah.
So he said that there was a way to adjust that somehow on the online version, or if it takes actually being in a park. He did say 3 to 5 days a week he felt would be valid enough. We picked a time if we wanted to go that route. And that might be something that the committee decides after going the electronic version. We say, hey, like this isn't quite enough responses. Now maybe we go more physical in the parks, but that
I
can be
think
up to the
both could be
committee.
useful, really, kind of for different purposes.
Agree.
But we could get duplication that way too, if they actually did a survey.
But we keep the results separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the visitor part of it is, maybe answered by the question, where do you live, where do you vote? In terms of finding out who's really a visitor and who's actually somebody who lives in the area. Because we don't want to really include a lot of visitor information, because they're maybe here for a week. Yeah.
Go ahead, Scott.
So I would say that I've spent quite a bit of time, a number of days, reviewing the survey results from when the master plan for the city was done. And there was more than 200 people who participated, and there was more than 400 comments. And sadly, I've read all the comments. And so I think that, if that's where we start, and then create a survey that improves on that based upon, because now we've done improvements at Marina Park and, other things have happened. But however they did that survey, that's what the model we should follow.
Yeah, I'll ask Victor. That was out for quite some time,
Yeah.
I believe, to
However,
get.
however they did it, because the most recent survey with 42 people, I mean, it's not a lot. But, look at what those, 200 and some odd people wrote 400 comments.
Scott, where did the people come from who responded? Were they City of Harbor Springs residents?
Well,
only?
it's in the survey. I believe 37% of them were outside of the city, but it's part of the packet,
Right.
so all the information is there. And to me, that's the base we should go off of. Because that was a great response.
I agree.
And, I also think that we need to do all the townships that are, in Emmett County.
I'd like to add one more park to, Rachel and I talked briefly about this Ford Park, she's saying that, well, they already pay for, launch fees. but a bunch of township people use the kayak racks. So I feel like
They pay for those as well.
that's a good point.
Do they pay more than city residents though?
No,
No.
So
No.
that, I mean,
but not like the boat.
Right.
Yeah, transit versus.
I would also be hesitant just to say, where do you vote? Because there are taxpayers that don't vote there necessarily, you know, they could,
Yes, summer
Right.
residents.
Right.
yeah,
You know,
summer
you're-
residents, they can be there for 5 months or every other weekend, but they still vote
Right.
somewhere else.
Yeah, you're a resorter, you live, 49740, but you don't live in the city. So, I think it.
Guys,
well,
can I make a
yeah, we can.
suggestion? Go ahead. I know we already voted on this, but I'm just really uncomfortable with the people that got this whole thing started not being the next committee meeting. What do you think about having a working session for the next survey discussion? And it could be outside of this meeting. It could even be when your next meeting is planned so that the new people can be there, the old people can be there, and
But it has to be a surveying where it can't be specific to this. Once it's specific to this, it's a board meeting. That's all. If it's a workshop
well, then.
talking about surveys in
call it-
general,
No, and then that way
Right.
John Eichel Angeles would be there, so everybody in the board has a chance to hear him. And let's just call it a special meeting.
yeah, we would have to.
And we
Ask
vote on
any questions specific to the survey would have to be a special meeting.
Well, the other thing we could consider doing is postponing the start of the program committee until this is underway. So in other words, you all, Maggie and Sarah, could finish up work on the survey since you've done so much already. And then at a later date, we can start on the programming. How would that sound? It's another option.
board decision. I want to come back to two things. First off, when we're talking about this survey, is the intention of our survey for us to gain information to take to the townships? Or is the intention of our survey for us to figure out how to drive programming? Because I feel like those are two very different pieces, which would
Right.
lead to different results
Yeah.
of how.
Well, and then that
Right.
might make you think to have the program committee meet to find out what you want to learn before it goes out, right?
I mean, we could, but
Or
once
maybe
again, I just wanna-
programming is a different survey that's,
I think programming is a different survey, and I think an important part of this survey is like, why do they choose to use our beach instead of one of the other beaches? Like, if the answer is lifeguards, like, well, lifeguards cost this much money, this is why we need your help.
I think the whole purpose of this survey is to take to other townships to increase our funding from them.
Yep.
And that should be the baseline of why we're
yeah, I
surveying.
guess,
But
is it reasonable to have a second purpose where we might find out?
I think we can get more information than just that, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
Well, there is a question already on the survey asking what activities would you like to see or what programs would you like to see? So there is a question on there already. I don't
We
know.
could even drop, instead of having that an open-ended, drop down some
Yeah.
ideas before
Right.
it goes out.
Right.
Okay.
I think drop down
But
ideas are.
I think one of the things that we really need to learn is, do people want the Eastern Boardwalk, which is $800,000? Do they want the Wheelway, or do they want Kiwanis Park?
But I think those
That's
are,
not our
But the
decision, right?
concern with adding that to this survey is they don't put in for those projects. So to ask that question isn't fair to township residents, because they don't cost share into those projects. I mean, I care if someone wants the wheelway, of course, that's a regional trail. But it's kind of insinuating that their funding is gonna be funneled, and that's not true. They don't dictate what our city CIPs
Right.
are in any way.
So what Scott
That would be a
brought up,
separate
we
survey.
wanted to find out city residents want,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Is that,
Right, because I mean, you're talking about, $3 million projects each by the time we're done in 2025.
but as of right now, like, those aren't really parks projects per se, we're just fundraising, so that's like a city survey
Yeah, that's
that
gonna
should
go
be
to a
done.
different audience than. this
yeah,
survey.
maybe.
and can Survey Monkey or whatever format the city uses, if a student, sorry, it's not right now. If a resident selects that they are a full-time resident of Harbor Springs, can we then drop or add 3 questions to that? Like,
I haven't found a way to do that, but that doesn't mean there isn't one
I mean,
in there.
I do
Yeah.
it in Google Forms. Like, I
Yeah.
know how to do it in that, but I don't
Right.
know the format. There is a way in other platforms.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that would be something.
Well, if you have the survey sent out by the Survey Monkey, I've learned this with the survey I just did. You have to throw in all, if you're gonna email it out, let's say, you have to throw in their addresses, they sent it out, then you can find out who responded to it. Otherwise, you just get, their,
In general.
you only get their.
We would
IP
have to
address.
maybe talk with them. So that would be something else that we can learn.
But maybe that is something
A
separate.
good question for Jen, I think,
Right.
Angela's.
And then I have one other thought. I still don't have clarity on what the townships want from us. Like what exact data, besides
So-
going into a park and saying, hey, where are you from? Where are you from?
That is all they
All
want.
they want,
They just want to know
that's
where
all they
people are.
want, like, and that's, I
Does
think,
the baseline questions that we have here
Yes.
already answer that?
yeah.
Are we gonna collect enough for them?
Yeah,
Okay.
so saying, I like the question of how often do you visit the parks, so when they do come back, when someone used the beach one time in the summer, we can say, no, they visit the beach multiple times in a week in the summer. Staff recommendation would be to keep this survey simple. I think we're overthinking it a little bit, personally. I think that it's really as simple as asking where they're from and how often they visit the parks, when they do programs, and if we need to in the summer. I don't think it hurts to go down and physically talk to people in the parks. I don't know when that's ever hurt a project. I mean, Parks Board members, volunteers going to talk to the public and figure out where they are, like, we might learn things that have nothing to do with this survey, but we learned something new. And then when we wanna do a bigger project, like Scott's saying, those questions and programming and those bigger ones of where we're going, I think that's a separate survey, cause I think if we open that door to this can be awfully long.
And then people won't do it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
And
if
then we
we
get no
keep
data.
it simple and we distribute it to these ways, that can be our phase 1. And then we just go from there on what other needs we think we need
I
to
think,
distribute or.
and finding out what people think of these projects could be phase 2, where you do it in July or August, when the people that use those projects would be here and.
Keep it simpler. than
Yeah.
This one, yeah.
yeah, 'cause
I would just on this one, I would just like to make sure that we are addressing all of the possible parks that we might want to ask them to participate
I
in.
did add a couple. I took the liberty of adding a couple. So we have Cozaquat, and then we list all the things at Cozaquat. So it's not just the skate park anymore, the Little League, the playground, the pickleball courts, the skate park, that's all on there. Then we have Kiwanis, and we list all the amenities at Kiwanis. And then we have the beach, and then we have, what's the other one?
Shea Park.
Sorry.
Shea.
You want me to read
I took-
them? What we have here?
Yeah,
Childs Park, Kiwanis, Cozaquat, Marina Park, Shea, Zoll Street / Dog Beach, Zorn Park. We do not have 4.
so I left
Could we-
Zoll, but I think I removed Child's Park and Shea
Yeah.
Park from it.
I would agree with that, and then I think it might be worthwhile to break up the functions that are at Cosaquat. Like skate park is its own thing,
Pickleball,
Cosaquat playground
pickleball.
is its own
Yes,
thing.
I agree.
Pickleball courts are their own thing.
Yeah.
If we could do that, I think that would give us more information. And then maybe the same thing with Kiwanis, disc
I
golf,
think those kind
the
of. go
trails,
together.
sledding, yeah.
The reason I hesitated to do it is because, again, parents pay for the Little League, and the Little League kind of runs themselves within
I would
those
leave
fence
that.
lines, which is
I
okay.
disagree, because Little League is using Cozaquat Park. They're
And they're
using
not
the
paying.
playgrounds, they're using, I mean, every function, the parking areas all
Right,
around, like
that's a
every
good
function
point.
of that
That
is
is a
used
good
by
point.
Little League.
Yeah.
And Little
Yeah.
League's not paying
But
it.
if someone says Little League over and over, and like their answer is just Little League, and we take that to the townships, my fear is they're gonna say, well, people pay to play Little League. Like, we don't
The
need to
city's
talk to them
not
for
getting
that.
money from Little League.
I know, but that's whether the townships care about that. They're gonna say, take money from the Little League then.
I don't know.
Does that make sense? Like, they're gonna say, why are you charging us when you're not charging the Little League?
I don't think we should say Little League in the survey.
Right, if anything, leave it out.
Leave it out. I mean, baseball fields can be used by anybody.
Right.
But I wouldn't mention Little League. in
Like,
the
you use the
survey.
playground, but if I'm there for the Little League, I'm gonna X off Little League, and I'm afraid we're gonna miss That like one kid went to the skate park while they were playing on the Little League.
Yeah.
Or one kid went to the playground when we were playing at the Little League, so they just crossed off Little League and then it ended, and then we get into the thing where we say, well, Little League's using the field, which is correct, absolutely correct. But then the argument is, why don't we charge the Little League?
Yeah, we don't wanna.
Good conversation.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, so
Maybe
it's just
address
kind
it.
of a, like, a toss up.
Yeah,
If I was a township supervisor, I would ask that question.
So is what I hear you saying then, you would prefer to not break out every function at every park?
I would either leave it as Cozaquat and list the things like we did at Kiwanis, or if we do list out the things, we leave out Little League. Cause I fear that, like I said, a family of, let's say 6 that goes down there is just gonna say Little League. Or really, they're using all those amenities while they're there.
I think if we break it out and leave Little League out, then people won't be saying Cosequat because of Little League.
Right, and that, you're right, and that's fair too. So, I mean, I guess it's the same, I feel the same way about Ford Park. It just kinda opens a strange door
mhm.
when people are already paying fees for things.
So are we keeping them together? Are we separating them?
We'll just take Little League out as a reason they go to Coatzacoalcos. I
Right,
didn't even know
I
what
would
Coatzacoalcos was until I got.
I
on
would
board.
separate pickleball, because they're totally different uses and programs.
Right, cause the high school field is there too. So do we list the high school field and
You could
then
leave
someone,
the stuff that's run by the school out.
right?
I would say pickleball, the playground and.
Skate park.
Skate park, and then maybe at Kiwanis, we say disc golf, sledding and trails. And then I don't see any harm in putting Ford Park, kayaking, you know, it's also a picnic area. I mean, I don't see any harm in having Ford Park in there.
Well, if you list things like kayak, paddleboard, picnic,
Mhm.
and leave it at that, and use the bathrooms,
Mhm.
but bathroom, no.
Are we still talking about having a work session for this?
Yeah.
If we're
That's a
going
bad
to
idea.
Yeah.
How many people are needed to have, if we're gonna have a special board meeting, how many people are required to be present? Has to be 4, right? And if we have a special board meeting and we have a survey expert come and share with us, can we talk about our specific survey?
If it's a special meeting posted, yes.
I would make a motion to move forward with a special board meeting with our survey specialist to discuss next steps on the survey.
I would second that.
Can I
All
ask
in
the question
favor?
really, can I ask the question before we vote?
Yep.
Does that mean that we will not meet on Monday for the 20th?
I was gonna find out what day.
Yeah.
We had set that.
Yeah,
Can
because we set a date
we-
of 26.
Can we set it as what we've already, or what the survey specialist is available?
Is he planning to come Monday?
Yeah, he was gonna come Monday the 26th.
I don't really like doing big group meetings to put a bunch of questions together. I think it's really cumbersome. I'd rather just finalize kind of the questions we have. I think it'd be great for everybody to meet with the specialist and surveys. I would really love to hear what he has to say. And maybe as a group, we can then decide how we're going to distribute it based on how he has told us, you know, his recommendations, what ideas he presents to us.
On the other hand, I think we've gotten some different good perspectives today.
I think that we could always meet with him and then end the meeting, and then you guys can continue to move on with what everyone says, but I think it's important that we're all hearing what he has to say.
Okay, let's show of hands. Who can do Monday? What time?
4:30, we
4:30
individually.
right now.
I mean, it could be a 30-minute thing with him, and then
We
beyond the
don't need to
meeting,
have
you guys can
discussion, yeah.
continue.
But is this are you saying for a special board meeting or
Yes.
for a
Special
survey
board meeting.
committee meeting?
Special board meeting.
meeting.
What is the board gonna do? Just listen to him speak, or we're gonna finalize the questions of the survey, or?
I think
Can we
maybe
start as a
Farrah
board
does
and
the
then we
presentation.
finalize the survey
again.
questions as a survey committee before you and Maggie lead the survey committee? Can we do it that way? I just don't want to turn this into a huge, long reinvent the wheel like we already did that.
So agenda, it sounds like would be to hear from somebody who's an expert in surveys. To then discuss methods of distribution based upon his expertise.
Yeah.
And any lingering questions then could be asked. from there, the survey committee could then finalize the questions and move forward with the next steps.
Perfect. Okay.
Sounds
And
okay?
so the survey committee, the old survey committee will meet right afterwards.
Right.
Okay,
But
perfect.
everyone else will have to leave.
Yeah.
It will not be an official board meeting anymore.
Yeah, no.
And then whatever the committee discusses with John, Eckley, and Julie after that point, they'll do an update at the next regular board meeting.
That sounds good.
So that's for the
I think we
survey.
should we have a roll call?
Yeah.
Be the new ser, yeah, that's the other thing.
The old
Yeah.
survey committee will meet afterwards to finalize, and then if we do another survey, you would be a part of the new survey committee.
Yes, that sounds good. Okay, Rachel, should we do a roll call vote? Since we're adding a meeting.
Yeah, can you just say like everything over again with the entire motion is
Yeah.
very clear? Thank you.
Yeah.
You got it?
Go ahead.
Okay, I make a motion to hold a special board meeting on February 26th at 4:30 with Mike, what was, I'm sorry, the survey.
Mike, Angeli.
Yeah, thank you.
No, John.
John.
Thank you. It's with John,
Yeah.
Angeli, to discuss next steps on the survey that has already been created.
I'll second that motion. All those in favor?
Hi.
Opposed? Perfect. Okay,
Okay.
that's good. Good solution. Table everything else on that for right now. Rachel, can we note in the minutes that our plan going forward then will be to do a simple survey in the spring months that were discussed that will primarily address usership and general questions. And then we will look at another survey in the summer months that will address programming and parks projects.
Yeah, I'll explain in the minutes how we
Yeah.
decide to do the committee, so there's no confusion.
Okay. Great. Okay, Rachel has a presentation for us on recycling. It's quite exciting.
Super
And
exciting.
now it's 6:27.
So, Lucas Vandersby, the director of DPW, and I met with Emmett County Recycling. We usually do a yearly meeting with them anyway to talk about 4th of July and all things recycling in the community. Let me find my presentation way at the bottom here. Today. License is far down, sorry.
Rachel confirming John will definitely be there at 4:30. and
Yeah,
Okay.
I'll email him and
Okay.
double check.
And maybe send a confirming note to everybody.
Yeah. Jeez, Pete. All right, this is a really long
It's
packet.
down there.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
I
way
didn't even
beyond.
realize how long this packet was. Just wanted to make sure you had all the things. Okay, so. Okay, so why do we want recycling in our park spaces? Our master plan, goal number 8 highlights recycling and compost stations throughout our park system. Reduce the amount of pollution our waste creates, reduce raw material use and natural resources. Plastics are the most important materials to recycle and potentially less trash cleanup. Where do we want recycling? So the ones we've specifically talked about were the city beach. We already have it at Marina Park, a system that would potentially change, but we have it at Marina Park. Then we talked about Ford Park. We talked about the skate park. I've added a couple just because if we're gonna do it, we may as well spread the wealth. So I added Zoll Street just because that beach is so busy. If we wanted one at City Hall, and then I even brought up if we wanted to go to the DDA and put a couple downtown. So how do we begin? So we met with Emmett County Recycling, like I said, and they went through all of our options. So we can get 96-gallon carts on the side of park buildings for Emmett County to pick up. Those would be our pickup locations. So that would be having basically a waste receptacle on the side of the beach building, a waste receptacle on the side of Ford Park, and so on. We can also purchase recycling receptacles and empty into 96-gallon carts on the side of the DPW building for Emmett County pickup locations. The nice part of this is then there's one pickup location for Emmett County. Purchasing recycling receptacles and emptying into a 15-yard dumpster on the side of the DPW building for Emmett County to pick up. Usually they start with the 96-gallon carts. And then if you need the 15-yard dumpster, then they move you to that. Petoskey's like that right now. They're using the carts, but they'll likely this summer get a 15-yard dumpster.
For the 96 gallon ones, the big ones on wheels. is that what
Yeah.
you're talking about?
Yep, like what the Harbor Master Building has. Yep, exactly. So the cost, it'd be $185 a cart a year for weekly service with a $50 annual cart fee. So the carts are a lot more expensive than having the one pickup site up at DPW. The marina uses the cart system, not specifically for boaters, and that would not change because the boaters need, you know, the cardboard and the plastic, like all of that separated. So that would stay the same. A drop site bin at DPW will cost $75 every time they service the bin, say once a week, which would also depend on volume.
Those the big green bins that we're talking about,
Mhm.
I get the IGA.
Yeah, no, not like that. It would still be the gallon. Like, let's say we had 5 of them up at DPW,
Like the
they
big
would all
ones
be
you try to
plastic in
convert.
cans, yeah, and they would dump them all, and that'd be one site, yep. So pros and cons of each. So the 96-gallon carts on the side of the park buildings, is convenient, which is nice. It's kind of an eyesore on the side of buildings, creates more pickup sites for Emmett County, making it more expensive. Likely will be used for trash because people tend to not read signs. It's not quite cost effective, as I mentioned. Option 2 would be purchasing recycling receptacles and emptying into 96-gallon carts on the side of the DPW building, is a one pickup location. Can be completed with trash pickup. That's a huge thing for maintenance. That's very easy. We can purchase recycling receptacles that are aesthetically pleasing that match the trash containers we have right now. One pickup location, cost effective, cost of purchasing recycling receptacles could be considered a con. Increased staff time, may not be enough room. Like we may have to go to a 15-yard dumpster at some point.
For them to do more often.
Yeah. Purchasing recycling receptacles and the 15-yard dumpsters, pretty much like option 2, can be completed with trash pickup. You can purchase recycling receptacles that are aesthetically pleasing, one pickup location, cost effective. We just have the initial cost of purchasing the receptacles, increased staff time.
Rachel, how does that differ from 2?
Nothing, it's just a dumpster
Mhm.
option. Option 4, getting a mixed use system similar to the Harbor Market on the side of DPW building can be completed with trash pickup. You can purchase recycling receptacles or aesthetically pleasing, ability to recycle more than just cans and bottles, because that would be sorting. One pickup location, cost effective, but staff would need to sort through the recycling once collected, increasing staff time. Cost of purchasing recycling receptacles. So what are other communities doing? So Petoskey, and I don't know what year they did it, but they applied for the foundation grant for their recycling receptacles, which are identical to their trash receptacles, and then they have these stickers on them. They have 7 recycling receptacles throughout their downtown and parks. They're lined with clear or blue bags. So when they do the trash, they know which ones are trash in the black, and then they have clear, they know what's recycling. They're picked up with trash by the Parks Department, then disposed in 96-gallon carts at their local DPW on Emmett. For Emmett recycling pickup, they are discussing a 15-yard dumpster due to large volumes. There is little contamination with Petoskey system, meaning park staff does not need to sort through any recycling because they just simply do cans and bottles.
So is that option 2 or 3, something like
That would be 2. Which may ultimately lead to 3, depending on the volume. We may need to go to the dumpster system anyway. It's really neither here nor there. Emmett County kind of tells you where you need to land. Are there any questions on the
What are
presentation?
you recommending, Rachel?
My staff recommendation would be to start with 2.
Option 2.
Yep. At those parks, possibly City Hall, depending, maybe downtown and DDA was interested. But it's trash pickup, so it's not gonna make a difference to parks. I mean, when we do the trashes, we don't just do the parks trashes, we go down Main Street too. We come to City Hall, and we go everywhere, so it doesn't, if we're gonna do it, I guess my question is, do we want to try and at least reach out to the DDA and council and expand it a little bit?
And so they would pay for their own receptacles?
Yeah, there'd be some sort of agreement, yep.
Does the city ever use recycling at the IGA?
No, so we've been told not
To
to,
do that?
just
Okay.
because it is a
Right.
large volume there already.
Are they paying for it?
Yeah, so we have, like at Kiwanis, we have the Kansas Mobile League does their own recycling at the fields, and I don't know where they take it, if they take it to Harbor, but we have been told specifically not to take it to the Harbor Market, because their volume is so high already,
Right.
so.
That's why I'd be hesitant to do option 4 down here, because then people will come and dump their stuff there and.
Correct.
Right.
That's a great presentation, thank you.
Yeah.
Any more questions, comments? Rachel, can we just say consensus, we agree with you on 2, or do you want to vote?
You could do a motion, yeah, better safe than.
Okay, I'll make a motion that we approve option 2 as presented.
I'll do the second.
All in favor?
Do.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Awesome. I will get some pricing on receptacles and talk to the foundation about grants. Possibly reach out to whoever I need to at City Hall and the DDA, see if they're not interested, we'll just move forward with parks. Like I said, it doesn't really make a difference because we're changing those trash cans anyway on Main Street. If we're gonna do it, we may as well do
Do you
it
think
correctly.
the grant will cover the whole thing?
Most likely, yeah. I think our trash container is about 800 a piece around there. I think it'd be fairly expensive.
Great. Excellent. Okay, that wraps up our agenda, most of the discussion items anyways. Do we have any public comment on the agenda items? Anybody on Zoom, any comments? Raise your hand if you do. Okay, Rachel, do you want to move on to the director report?
Sure. There, you go back down. All the way down. Or did I attach the director of the board? Anybody know where I attached it? Did I attach it?
I don't see it. It goes from our calendar
I don't think
to
I
our
did attach it.
projects, and then it jumps into the survey.
All right, so it was pretty short. So I will be next week at the M Parks Conference in Kalamazoo. I attend every year. It's a week long, and I attend so many classes to keep my certification as a Parks Recreation professional. So that's next week. As I said, DPW did remove the brush in Cozaquat Park, and they'll be working on the wood chips. We did order 2 new toddler swings for Cozaquat Park as well. So we're gonna remove the one that is there and replace them with 2 new ones. The Zorn playground is on schedule for April, so that is all set.
Thank you again to the Kennys.
Yeah, and other than that, we're moving right along. Oh, and the Zorn fence, so the thought was, so Cups I'm waiting on like an official quote, but he said somewhere around $5,000 for the fence along Zorn to use the same railing as, yep, the boardwalk. So if that happens and we go that route, that's great. And then we'll move that CIP project to the skate park to have that fence line along M119, just that 4-foot, we talked about a buffer. It's basically the same project, probably the same price line. So I would just go to council and ask for that amendment. That instead of the beach, it'll be at the skate park for a fence.
We'll take the beach out and move it up to the skate.
Correct.
Do those with kids have any thoughts on type and height of the fence at the skate park?
I mean, I think 4 foot's tall enough for younger kids,
Okay,
and that's,
I was kind of basing it off the pickleball black, fence. Those are 4 foot, I believe, so something just kind of slim and nice looking like that.
and then we actually will have trees between the sidewalk and the fence, so.
Oh, another thing I wanted to bring up this meeting, so this past week was a perfect example. There was no snow in the forecast on Monday, and there was grass everywhere. So I took it upon myself to cancel Kiwanis, and then we got 4 inches of snow. So we did go up there, Jordan and I, we served hot cocoa. There were some families on Saturday for a few hours. we went up, but I'd like to make it just a standard policy for myself that we don't cancel anything for 48 hours. That way it's not even a thought in our heads to cancel it. We're not even questioning it, looking at the weather. We just wait 48 hours. Doesn't hurt anything.
That's
Good job.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I kicked myself pretty hard when I saw that. I know.
Okay, you know.
Yeah, so,
And there is some thought if we get a bunch of snow in March that maybe we try and schedule one.
Or April.
Yeah, yeah.
That's right.
Okay, okay, that's it then.
I just-
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, notice on the February, you have begin Easter egg hunt discussion that was not discussed, so can we add that to the March?
yeah, so I
Oh,
have
yeah,
spoken
yeah.
to Sophia.
Right.
And we have a plan for the eggs.
Whenever you wanna give them to me,
Yeah.
ready.
And we're gonna, and I know we talked about getting actual yard signs, like professionally done, so we'll do that. But yeah, we'll add it to the agenda for March. We can talk about it,
Let's
maybe
review
like a
that.
week
This is a
before.
good idea, a good practice too, to review
Yeah.
what we're gonna talk about next month. So we've got that. We have an update from the survey committee. And we have an update from the programming committee. And is that enough, or do we wanna?
I'm sure other things will come up. Let's just leave it like that for now.
So I would just say one thing about the Easter egg hunt. I saw the chamber put out that the bowling on Main Street would be the same day as the Easter egg hunt. So that's at noon, right? The bowling's at noon and we do the Easter egg hunt at 11.
Yeah, they
until
almost go.
11:02.
Is that kind of-
Yeah, until 11:03.
I don't think it's
I
bad,
was
but
just
I,
worried about attendance to the Easter egg hunt because a very large majority of our kids will not be in town.
well, you know, it's worked out the last 2 years where there's been hundreds of kids and parents.
You,
Should we
you
talk
might
about
not
it
need to
next
plan for as many because the
Yeah.
school spring break falls
Yeah.
on the same
I
day.
say we respect, that's not gonna happen every year.
No,
Yeah.
the last
Super
couple of years.
early this year,
Right.
we just say the Saturday before Easter and when it falls, it falls and we record, because if it is, we'll know, obviously, there's a big difference, then we can adjust. But for now.
So our next meeting is Tuesday, March 19th. Shall we try and
Okay.
adjourn again?
Sorry about that.